Here we go. Welcome to the last class of ACI Course 3, Applied Meditation. Thank you so much for your participation and your interest in this course. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing with the readings and the homeworks and the meditations and attending classes. It's really a lot of work, and it's an inspiration to me that you are putting in all this effort in your practice. So thank you for that. So let's bring to mind our motivation for being here today. Why are you here today? Make your motivation as big as you can. You feel it in your heart. Sashi Buki Jukshin Metok Dram Rirav Lingshi Nyende Genpadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Uwagi Drokun Namdak Shingla Tuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kanyayatayami. Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Partu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chushe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Tupasho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chushe Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Tupasho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chushe Kipe Sunam Ki Chola Pinchir Sangye Duparsho. So before we get started on our last class, are there any questions that you have from last time? Okay, brilliant ACI students once again. Then let's just do a quick review of what we did last time. So the outline of the Lam Rim, of the source of all my good, is rather detailed, right? But we have 4 major parts. We have the root of a path, taking a Lama. Then we have how to purify the mind and practice after we've taken a Lama. Then we have requesting help in our practice and a prayer to meet teachers and achieve our goals. And I haven't said this before, but these last 2, requesting help in our practice and a prayer to meet teachers and to achieve our goals, those are just the last 2 verses of the source of all my good. And they are basically just what is said in the title of the section. So the bulk of this Lam Rim, and the first one, the root of the path, taking a Lama, that was just 1 verse. So the bulk of this object of our meditation, source of all my good, this Lam Rim, is in number 2, how to purify our minds and how to practice after we've taken a Lama. So we talked about the first being developing faith and admiration in our Lama, how to think about our Lama, how to act towards our Lama, and developing reverence for our Lama. So I see that there's a question about the content of analytical meditation before we continue with the outline. I didn't leave enough time for translation and for contemplation of what a question might be. So the content of analytical meditation or analysis meditation, Qigong in Tibetan, is any particular question that you have. So if we just talked about the teacher, so if you could be evaluating a particular person and whether or not you experience them as having the 10 qualities of a spiritual teacher, or whether they have any of the 5 or the 2 sets of 5 qualities. You could be thinking about your experience with them and of them and evaluating your experience against that list that we find in the scriptures. Sometimes we have analytical meditations that are more spelled out, more identified, what you're analyzing. Like there are many different meditations on the topic of emptiness, on the lack of a self nature. And we're going to talk about this later, but you go through certain ideas, almost like a debate within your mind. if you're looking for what you think of as me, who is Utpala? If I'm looking for Utpala in my meditation, one possibility is that I could be looking around in my body. Is it in my little finger? Is Utpala in my little finger? Is Utpala in my eyebrows? Is Utpala in my nose? And moving around and looking. And then, well, is it Utpala can't be in my hair because I cut my hair and I'm still Utpala. So maybe that's not quite right. And I know that, the body goes through, science tells us that the body goes through this process that takes about 7 years of regenerating, like sloughing off old bits, like skin comes off. I'm not my skin comes off. But even down into the inside, all my cells, the ones I have now, are not the same ones that I had when we started this course. Many of them, they're different, and they're certainly not the same as the ones I had when I was a mere, 59 years old. They're all different. So like that, you have an object of meditation and you're picking apart the problem to look for an answer. So that's analytical meditation. Thank you for asking about that. So we have in the second major part of this Slam Rim how to purify the mind and practice. And it had 2 major parts. So can someone tell me what the first major part is? Urging to take the essence. Yes, thank you so much. So our teacher is urging us to take the essence of this life. And we had 3 parts within that. Can anyone recall what those 3 parts are? Yes, looking at leisures and fortunes, looking at how it is we have, or to what extent we have, or maybe even do we have it all, the 8 leisures and the 10 fortunes. And then we didn't really raise this explicitly, but the next 2 parts are thinking about how important those leisures and fortunes are to want to take advantage of this life. By recognizing how, and third, recognizing how difficult they are to find in the sense that they're very rare. We talked about the turtle at the bottom of the ocean coming up to stick her head through the buoy. So when we think about these leisures and fortunes that we need to be able to practice the Dharma, and we think about how important they are, how difficult it would be to work with our minds if we didn't have these leisures and fortunes. and recognizing just how rare it is to have them, we feel motivated to take the essence of this life, to study and practice. And then the second part, what was after the Lama urges us to take the essence of this life, what's the second part? And it's kind of related to what Vivian said. Method, right, exactly. Just how do we take the essence of this life? And it has three major parts. Vivian mentioned the first. We're training in the steps of the path that are shared with practitioners of lesser scope. And by shared, what that means is that it's not, so people of lesser scope, they want to have a good rebirth in their next life. They want to be born as a human. So these practices are not limited just to people who have that kind of motivation. People who have bigger motivations also do the practices that are related to people of that scope. Okay, and then we talked about two meditations related to the practices for those shared with those of lesser scope. Can anyone tell me what they are? There were two of them. Death, thank you. Thank you, Laura. And then what was the second one? Cause and consequences, right? Karma. And we just talked briefly about those. These are both very deep topics, death and karma. But we just talked about for death that the three aspects, right? That death is certain, that we don't know when we're going to die, and that the only thing that can help us when we die is our practice, are the practices that we've done repeatedly. And then with karma, that actions done to benefit others will bring a result of feeling some pleasure, and that actions done to harm others will bring a result to us of some sort of pain. And then if we do something that's neutral, we get a neutral result, that the result is of the same type as the cause. And then the second one is that karma grows. And we talked about a seed, like in the physical world, that a very, very small seed can result in a very large tree. In the same way, a very small action can have a very large consequence. The longer it stays around before ripening. And then that we can't expect to experience a result without having created the cause. In other words, or for example, we can't expect to go to a Buddha paradise if we haven't created the Buddha paradise. There's not one just waiting around somewhere for us to move into, right? We have to create it. And then likewise, once we have created a cause, the result must come. Okay. So now we're caught up. And today, I don't know how Geshe Michael did this actually. There's just so much material. I think he has some sort of magical power where he can bend time or something. But I will do my best, and here we go. So I'll open up my Tibetan page. Can you still see me when I open up the Tibetan? Yeah? Okay, good. Because that'd be kind of weird to just be looking at Tibetan this whole time. Okay. I should have asked you a long time ago. Okay. So, oh, just a quick note about the Tibetan. I put in these Tibetan documents every Tibetan word that Geshe Michael used when he taught the class, as well as some words that I'm going to use that he perhaps didn't use. So that's why I don't highlight every single word that's in this document, okay? Just in case you're wondering. Okay, I gotta find the chat. Hey, okay. All right, so now we're going on to Kiebu Dring Dang Tung Mong Wei Langi Rimpar Lo Changwa. Say Kiebu Dring. Lips moving, Kiebu Dring. Yay, lips are moving. So Kiebu Dring means a person, it means medium person. So medium person is someone who's got a medium scope. And this is actually a very large scope. It's only medium when you relate it to the other two levels of motivation or scopes of motivation. So our first scope of meditation was to not be reborn as a hell being or a hungry ghost or an animal, to be reborn as a human in our next life. And this capacity goes far beyond that. It has two major parts. The first is Tarndu Lokye. Say Tarndu Lokye. Tar stands for Tarpa, which, if you have been exposed to any Sanskrit, means moksha. It means freedom, liberation. De means to want, to desire. Lo is mind, here, state of mind. And ke means to develop. So the person with the medium scope, they have, gone through the death meditations. They have wondered what comes next in their life, and they've gone through thinking about karma, and now they reach this state where that's really not quite enough. So this first part, the practices related to the first part of those who have a medium scope motivation is to develop the wish to achieve freedom from suffering existence altogether. It's the wish to get out of this circle of suffering and be done with it. I really love these verses. So I'm just going to read this verse. Here it is in Tibetan, but I'll read it in English. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me, then, to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Chepe mi ngom. This means no matter how much we experience the pleasures of this life, we can't be satisfied. No one is ever satisfied. Any contentment we might think that we have is very short-lived. I mean, just as a simple example, we don't eat once and then that's it, right? We eat breakfast and then we get hungry later and we have to eat again. Same with thirst. So, but it's the same thing with everything. And it's not only that our desire for something, not only do we want to have it again, but we want more. We want better. We aren't satisfied with our version 9 iPhone. We have to get, release 10 and then 11 and then 12 and then 13 and then 14. It never ends. And each version has something new and better. It's like everything is like heroin. We are addicted to things. We crave them, and we crave more and better. It's the nature of everything. One of my teachers said, of the 3 poisons that Buddhism talks about, ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, and ignorance, most attention is spent on anger and ignorance. And she said, but I think the first one is the most dangerous. Ignorant liking. We think that we can get pleasure out of things, and we crave things. We don't let go of things, or that is our very strong tendency. I'm not saying that you crave absolutely everything that you've ever come into contact with. I'm not saying that. But our tendency is to be like that. You know, it's very rare that we experience pleasure with some object that we have wanted and then let it go. Like there's this brand of potato chips in the United States where their motto is, you can't eat just one. They are so tasty that you just want to eat more and more and more, and you can eat a whole bag. But the pleasure was really in that first potato chip. You know, that crunch, that salty flavor, a little bit of oil, or whatever your favorite food is. That first bite of a sweet dessert, or whatever it is. Could you put down the spoon after taking the first bite of ice cream and then walk away and be totally satisfied? Not feel this strong desire to be a member of the clean plate club and finish the entire bowl. No, we crave things. We crave things. Nuknyal Kungigo. They are the door of every suffering. Yi Ten Mi Rong, we can't trust them. They're not trustworthy. Sipe Punto Ki, the seemingly good things of this life. Seemingly good things. We mistake that our experience of pleasure comes from the thing. We haven't studied karma deeply enough to understand that it comes from us, that we create pleasure. If our practice is such that we're doing like a really great job of planting seeds of bringing happiness to others, we are in the future not going to be able to avoid feeling pleasure. We'll be forced to feel pleasure. We won't have to go after anything because we've planted the seeds to have that experience. If we put down this food, if we've created these seeds, and let's say we're sharing our ice cream bowl, everyone has their own spoon, no worries. We're sharing our ice cream around. if we keep doing that, there's going to be more and more bowls of ice cream being shared around. We won't be able to avoid pleasant ice cream in the future. So the definition of this kind of desire is this craving to not lose the object that we're enjoying. And then the irony is that through our practice, we won't be able to avoid experiencing them. So the point of this practice is to realize that the normal good things of our life are not stable. They cause our suffering. They make us discontented. It's their nature. And so this triggers the thought that, I want something better than something that doesn't satisfy me in the end, something that brings me suffering for sure, but something where I feel some positive feeling doesn't last. I want something permanent, something reliable. And that is nirvana. That is getting freedom from the cycle of pain. So the second part is tar lem tena. Tar we just had, and that stands for freedom. Thank you. Lam we've had before as well, and that is the path. Tenla Appa. Tenla Appa means to figure out, to determine. So we're going to figure out how we can gain the path of freedom. And the verse associated with this practice: grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of the Buddhist teachings. So grant that these pure thoughts, namdak sampa, pure thoughts. So what is the pure thought here? Yes, it's the wish to be free, the wish to get out of the cycle of suffering. So when we say we get out of the cycle of suffering, like it's a place, and that we're going to go to another place that's free of this suffering. But is it another place? No. Being in the realm of suffering means that we are under the control. We are hopelessly under control of the consequences of our negative actions. And we have, this impure body because it's breaking down and also sometimes hurts. And we have this impure mind that's not yet free of yonmongs, of kleshas, of negative thoughts. So it's not that we pack a bag and go to a new place, but it's that we're changing our very nature. So in the practices or the motivation for people of lower capacity, they were packing their bags to make sure they went to a particular location. Here, we're not packing our bags. We are transforming ourselves into a pure being with a pure mind. The definition of nirvana, of freedom from suffering, is that permanent cessation in which one has eliminated all mental affliction obstacles in their entirety due to one's individual analysis. And individual analysis is a code phrase for having seen the nature of reality directly, having seen emptiness directly. And why it is that we're taking this course, to learn how to control our mind such that we can place it on that highest object, the lack of self-existence. And then we will be we will be on the path that must result in becoming free from suffering. After we have the direct perception of emptiness, there's a part of that particular path called the path of seeing, where we have experience of the four Arya truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of freedom from suffering, and then the truth of the path to freedom from suffering. That might be another good object of meditation for developing single-pointed concentration, right? But we really don't really understand. We can sort of intellectually understand it, but someone who has seen emptiness directly, they realize it, which is an entirely different kind of thing. The next So within this part of how to develop the freedom from suffering, we're going to use that pure thought, which is the wish to be free, to push us on. And we're going to use Drenpa and Sheshin. And we had these words earlier when we were talking about going through the 9 stages of meditation, right? That Drenpa is recollection and Sheshin is watchfulness. When we're talking about going through the stages of meditation, Drenpa was very specific in terms of not losing the object. That was our antidote for losing the object. But here, and then watchfulness was about whether our mind is feeling agitated, too much energy, or depressed, foggy. So here, what we're using recollection and watchfulness with is how we keep our morality. If we have vows, how are we keeping them? So there are sosotarpa, that means the pratimoksha vows, the vows of liberation. And there are 8 types of vows that you could take. There's one-day vows. There are layperson vows, so for men and women. Then for nuns, there are 3 sets of vows. There are novice vows, intermediate novice vows, and full ordination vows. And then for men, there are monks' novice vows and full monks' vows. So those are the 8 types of vows. And even if we have not taken any vows, we can still watch how we are avoiding the 10 negative actions, if you've heard about those. So it's not a requirement that you take one or more of the vows of individual liberation, but vows are a protection. Taking vows are like they're a great assistant in helping us to control our minds. Now, when we're watching how we are around the vows we've taken, how well are we keeping them? Or around the 10 negative actions, avoiding those 10 negative actions. The point, as it was with going up through the stages of meditation. We shouldn't like beat ourselves up when we break or tarnish even a vow. We should not give up. It's just a mistake. But we do need to recognize it. We need to acknowledge what kind of consequence that will bring us in the future. We need to do some sort of a counteraction. Let's say what we did is we remember that, oh my gosh, 2 years ago, I fibbed on my tax return. I wasn't quite truthful on my tax return. I told the government I made less money than I really did, which is stealing. So your counteraction would be to be generous. Find some way to be generous with people in your society or your community with wisdom. And then, make a strong determination not to do that again. And that's what we do when we find that we've tarnished our vows or we have acted against the teachings. When we haven't avoided doing negative actions. The response is not to put ourselves in a timeout or to go sit in the corner or to, lash ourselves with a rope. No, that doesn't help. We're working with our minds. That's all this is. We're working with our minds and our hearts. So we just be clear-headed about what we did, what consequence it will bring, what we can do to counteract the effects of what we did, and not to do it again. It's easy to say, right? More difficult to do. So people who have not yet reached nirvana, if they want to establish the path to reach nirvana, they must keep recollection of the vows they've taken or how to act morally, the Buddhist teachings on being ethical. And they have to be watchful of their own behavior. Now, there's something in Buddhist teachings called the 3 trainings, and those are morality, concentration, and wisdom. So you can put all of the Buddhist teachings into those 3 buckets. Keeping ethics, morality, concentration, developing the ability to keep the mind focused on whatever your object is, and then wisdom. Wisdom here includes, not only about emptiness, but also about dependent arising and cause and effect. So why did Tsongkhapa mention only morality in this verse? Is he saying that the other two are not important? That it's not important to do training of concentration or training in wisdom? Yes, it is the basis for the others. Um, our our ethical behavior, our moral behavior, is the very foundation for our training and practices in concentration and wisdom. I think I talked about this before. We really can't uh, advance through the stages of meditation if we're not leading an ethical life. If we're running around every time we're not on the cushion, lying to people and taking from people or yelling at people or trying to split people up, or of the many, many kinds of ways that we can be immoral. And we're very good at it. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We just have to be watchful. We have to remember them, what ethical behavior is, and be watchful throughout the day. And then shakpa, go through those 4 steps, like I just talked about on purifying. When we recognize that we have done something that is not moral. And Shakpa does have an aspect, or I should say confession, not confession, purification. Sorry, purification has an aspect of being something you do in meditation, right? You're sitting on your cushion, going through those 4 steps. But it's something you can learn to live in the moment in your life when you encounter someone who like is expressing anger towards you, or is maybe belittling you, saying something that's hurtful to you, we can the best response is to not do what we normally would do, which is to say, oh yeah, I'm stupid. No, you're stupid. Because by saying you're stupid, we're actually saying, I am so stupid because I'm just creating the seeds to be called stupid again in the future. So we learn how to recognize when that feeling comes up that we're going to respond in the same way. And at first, it's it's a challenge. Oh, yeah, I love you. Uh-huh. But the more we do this, the more we keep ourselves from that bad habit of responding in kind, the more we control ourselves, the easier it becomes. And then the more we act in a way that is based in love and not self-centered protectiveness, the more we respond out of love for the other person, the fewer opportunities we're going to have to do this practice, because we're not going to be finding people who are yelling at us or calling us stupid. they will eventually disappear. We won't have the experiences of being yelled at. The Dalai Lama calls it enlightened self-interest. But we can use, if we slip, we can think about what can I do? I always slip on this one thing, when someone calls me, like I'm trying to think of the big thing that gets me is when I say stuff and then other people don't acknowledge that I said it, not like acknowledge like, hey, great idea, but just to even that I've been heard, that I even said something. Oh, you've never said that. Well, yeah, I said it on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that's like that's the, like I did say that. I can find ways like to work with myself in like, okay, the way things have been going, the way karma's been ripening, you're going to have people ignoring you today. So what can you do to work with this feeling that gets upset when you're ignored? And you come up with ways to help yourself keep your vows. You're thinking about them thoroughly. You are being very watchful about what's going on in your life as you're living your life. So to summarize, the trainings for the steps of the path shared with practitioners of medium scope have two main steps: developing the wish to be free, and then determining the path that leads to freedom. And then the path that leads to freedom depends on your recollection of your vows or the ethical teachings of the Buddha, and your watchfulness. How well are you keeping them? Now we go to Kebu Chempoi Lamgirin Par Lo Jongwa. Misspelling, I'm so sorry. I need to go through and fix all of these. But the difference here is Kebu Chempo. Kebu Chempo. And that means a person with great capacity. So there are two parts to the practice for those of great capacity. They don't call this one shared, because mainly the sharing is going down. You're doing the practice. Like if you're a person of great capacity, you're also doing practices related to people of lower capacity and people of medium capacity. People of medium capacity are doing the practices, their practices, plus those for people of lower capacity, like that. So the first is, the first part is Jangchuk to Semkepetsu, which means how to develop the wish for enlightenment. Jangsem is another way of saying this wish for enlightenment, or the Sanskrit is bodhicitta, the wish to become totally and purely enlightened for the sole benefit of helping others achieve the same state of being. And just like the goal of the path of this, the medium scope is rewiring ourselves, transforming ourselves into another kind of being. This one is also the result of this path is another transformation to a completely awake and there's no obstacles to a person's mind or heart. They see all, and everything that they do is for the benefit of other people. So, how do we develop the wish to become a Buddha? This isn't on your homework, but I'm just going to mention them. There are two general practices or typical practices for developing bodhicitta. One is called the 7-step cause and effect method. And this is a meditation on 7 points that are in a cause and result chain. So each result is a result of the previous point. And this was covered in course 1. And in large part, this meditation depends on the idea that over countless lives, countless different births we've had since beginningless time, every other living creature that exists, the number of which is countless, has been our mother, has gone through the suffering of bringing us to life and to, making sure we don't die and feeding us and teaching us and caring for us. And we develop this wish to want to repay them back. We wish that they be happy, which is love, which is the true happiness, which is freedom from suffering. And we have compassion for them. And then we take a pledge of personal responsibility. And then we have a recognition that in our current state of being, we really can't help much. We can help a little, but we realize we must become totally enlightened in order to help, truly help others. And then the other method is called exchanging self and others. And this is talked about in course 11. Course 10, 11, and 12 are on Master Shantideva's book called Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Seiji is translating that in the Mixed Nuts group. It's extraordinary text. And then once we have developed the wish, then the second part is Semke ne chupa la lope tso. Chupa means activities. So once we have the wish, we've officially joined the family of the Buddhists, and we're a bodhisattva. So what is it that bodhisattvas do? What are the activities of bodhisattvas? And this might be surprising, but there are two main divisions of the activities of a bodhisattva. The first is, I'm going to do shortcut because we're getting close to the end of time. The shortcut word is do. Usually we see do as referring to sutra or the word of the Buddha. But here it means particularly open, meaning available to absolutely everybody. The second is the way to train in secret ways. Ngak. Ngak literally means mantra, like Om Mani Padme Hum, that's a mantra. And it refers to the secret practices or the practices of the Diamond Way or Tantra, another Sanskrit word. So let's talk about the first part, which are trainings, the activities of a bodhisattva that are open. And guess what? It has two parts. The first part is, where did I put it? Here it is. Chupachila Loptsul. It's training in the 6 perfections, generally. So the 6 perfections of a bodhisattva are the perfection of giving, the perfection of morality is the second, the perfection of not getting angry is the third, the perfection of joyful effort is the fourth, the perfection of meditation is the fifth, and the perfection of wisdom is the sixth. I mean, there are hours and hours and hours and hours of conversations we could have about the 6 perfections. And it's so tempting. I so want to talk more about them, but that's not the purpose of this particular course, to get into that. So, the thing to say about these 6 perfections right now is that they are covered in 3 types of morality. And this is on your homework. The first type of morality, Nyechu Dompe Tsultrim. Tsultrim means reality. Dompa means vows. Vowed morality, but it doesn't necessarily have to be vowed morality. It's the morality of restraining ourselves from bad deeds. So if you haven't taken any vows, then it's the morality of training in avoiding the 10 negative actions. If you have taken vows, whether They are individual freedom vows. And we talked earlier that there are 8 of those. So any one of those, or bodhisattva vows, there are vows that bodhisattvas take, or diamond way vows associated with the practice of the secret path, the path of the diamond way. So where the 6 perfections one way of thinking about them is that we are training in restraining ourselves from going against our vows, of going against morality. To remember that the wish of a bodhisattva is a wish to become completely and totally enlightened in order to benefit other living beings. And part of that wish, that wish is dependent on looking at how every other living being has been our mother and has served us, and that we want to repay them back. We see they're in suffering. We want to help get them out. So there's this sense of I'm not restraining myself from doing bad deeds because I want to be known as a good person. No, I'm restraining myself from doing bad deeds or breaking or harming my vows because I want to get out of here as quickly as possible. I want to reach enlightenment as quickly as I possibly can. So that's one part of that's one type of the 3 types of morality. The second type of morality is called Geshe Michael. And this means the morality of collecting goodness. Bodhisattvas, one way of thinking about them is that they're seed planting machines. They know what result they want. They have their highest motivation firmly in their heart. It drives everything they do. So everything they do is planting seeds. They are planting seeds right and left 24/7. They don't care whether the seed they plant ripens tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. They know it will ripen. They know how it will ripen. They have no fear. All they're doing is planting seeds. All they're doing is collecting goodness. The Dharma is alive in their hearts. And then the third type of morality is Semchen Dunje Kitsultram. And this one is almost like, do we even need to say it? Because what this type of morality is about, the morality of benefiting living beings. So it's paying special attention to our motivation, making sure our motivation doesn't slip from the highest that it could possibly be. Making sure there's no tinge, no smell, no hint of self-interest in everything that we do in these other 2 types of morality, avoiding harming others and collecting goodness. Bodhisattvas don't do anything for themselves. They're doing it for others. So that's how to train in the 6 perfections generally. And now the second part is training in the final 2 perfections specifically. And they are specifically concentration and wisdom. In this section, we call them shamatha, quietude, and insight, vipassana. Shamatha. And I'm going to put it in the chat just in case. This is what shamatha is. It is that single-mindedness which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep, single-pointed meditation on its object. That is shamatha. That is quietude. Vipassana, or insight, is that wisdom which is full of the exceptional bliss of practiced ease by the power of analysis of its object, and which is founded upon quietude. So what does that phrase, exceptional bliss of practice ease, mean? So we talked about previously the 9 stages of meditation. You could think of quietude as a 10th stage. That's not what it's called. That's not from the text. That I just thought of it that way because I used to struggle between reaching the 9th stage, which was an equal mind, which was deep meditation, and then reaching quietude. Like there is a distinction between the two. And the distinction is this exceptional bliss of practiced ease. The more we do, just like when we move from stage 8 to stage 9, that stage 9 was based on doing meditation at stage 8. Remember, stage 8 was where the only effort you made was sitting on the cushion and just placing your mind. And then you just meditated, single pointed on your object for as long as you said you were going to. By doing that over and over and over and over, we reach stage 9, which means no more effort. You just sit down, there you are. Now, when we do stage 9 over and over and over and over and over with a very virtuous object, then we have exceptional bliss of practiced ease. Our mind is concentrated. And because of that, our subtle body, we've withdrawn so deeply our attention. Our subtle body straightens out, allowing winds to flow freely. These winds flowing freely cause our physical bodies to feel bliss, and they cause our mind to feel happy. So remember that meditation is a tool. It is agnostic. It doesn't care what object You can develop single-pointed concentration on cracking safes, on some non-virtuous object. But Geshe Michael has advised that we use the source of all my good, that we use the Lam Rim. It's a single object, even though it has many, many, many parts. It is a single object, and it is the complete path from looking for and finding a teacher to becoming totally, completely enlightened. So we are creating incredible, positive, powerful energy by using that as the object to develop single-pointed concentration. So once we have quietude, we can then focus this extraordinary tool we've developed on what they call perfect meaning. And perfect meaning is a code phrase for emptiness, for the lack of self-existence to things and people. And we focus this incredible tool on doing analysis of emptiness. The book that I had the great fortune to learn a bit on how to translate was called, what's it called? Emptiness Meditations. And it has inside of it many different meditations that you can do, emptiness meditations, that you can do analytical meditation on. So if you don't have that book, it's a very good book. And hopefully I plan to do some teachings on that book, and we can learn how to create an analytical meditation out of these debates on meditation, on emptiness. Anyway, so we use our tool of quietude on doing insight meditation, which is analytical meditation on emptiness. We reach a conclusion through our analysis. And then we rest completely on that conclusion. And we continue that process over and over and over. Placing our mind in this incredible tool. It's blissful, so this is going to be fun. By that point, it's going to be hard to take us away from our meditation cushion. And then analyzing emptiness, and then resting the mind on the conclusion. And eventually, they will become one. There is the marriage of quietude and insight. And then that ends how we train in the open activities of a bodhisattva. The secret activities of a bodhisattva. Geshe Michael really didn't talk much about this. Even when he taught Pabonka Rinpoche's Lam Rim over 12 years, he did not talk much about this part of the Lam Rim in Pabonka's text. It's there. You'll see it in your reading. But all we need to know at this point is that the secret part of it is not about hiding it away or keeping it from prying eyes, or being secretive. It's about if we haven't prepared our minds well, if we haven't had these paths of realization in the Lam Rim, up till then, all these paths we've been talking about, Tantra will be secret to us. The Diamond Way will be secret to us. Even if they put the words in front of us, we won't understand them. Even if someone talks to us about the practice, we won't understand it. So our focus should be on the Lam Rim. And I'm at time, which makes me sad. But I hope that I've given you the tools for how you can develop single-pointed concentration and how you can use this object of this extraordinary text, source of all my good, as your object to develop single-pointed concentration. Please practice. Please continue to study. Please stay in my lives. I hope to meet you all in person someday. Gosh, I am really sad. I've really enjoyed being with you guys. Thank you so much for this opportunity for me to plant seeds in sharing these precious teachings. May all your highest wishes come true immediately. Please remember to dedicate and please think about being generous with Asian Classics Institute for supporting these teachings. Think about being generous with your live translators who have made it possible for you to understand these teachings in your own language. Just to express your gratitude in some way. Thank you. If you want, next time I'll be in a month or so, I'll be teaching course 5 on karma. That'll also be really fun. Thank you. The Telegram chat still exists, so if you have questions, you can ask them there, okay? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your practice. Thank you, ACI. Thank you, live translators. I so love you. Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you so much, Venerable Utpala.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome so much. Please stay. We love you.
Thank you, dear teacher.
Thank you so much.
I love you.
Thank you.